our innovation hubs in every location of our operations. Our contributions reduce complexities for businesses and customers, along with making a sustainable impact, addressing problems of the environment, wildlife conservation, climate change, humanity, our health, and a host of other concerns. It's made us passionate about the work we do.
The CISCO Ideathon is one more way for Networking Academy students to get involved. This is an opportunity to put your education to work and translate ideas into impact. The global digital transformation is running at full speed, and we are thrilled to offer students a way to shape the technologies of tomorrow. Excited to welcome you to this year's Ideathon.
So if you have the drive to seize the moment, to lead an idea, and to follow it through, we urge you to join our ambitious journey of technology evolution.
We are looking for the best of minds to come join us, to take advantage of our awesome technology, our inspiring culture, and work in teams to solve the biggest problems that we face. Are you ready?
Stand by. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you. We at CISCO are absolutely delighted to have you all join on our CISCO TV event designed to enable your skill sets for the future. Next slide, please. Today, I would like to extend our gratitude to AICTE and NASCOM for participating with us to make this program available for second and third year engineering students from various institutions throughout India. We would also like to thank our incredible partners, Amity, Amrita, EduSkills, ICT Academy, NTTF, NIIT Foundation, and TASC for making this program such a great success. When CISCO embarked on the India Internship program, we had two main goals. The first one, to align with our national priority to transform India into a digital talent hub by providing 20,000 virtual internships in cybersecurity. And secondly, we were excited by the opportunity to utilise the collaboration of industry and government to help build a pool of skilled talent for future jobs in the industry. We were delighted by the incredible response from media as we jointly launched the program, and you can see the significant PR the program has raised, as these are just a small snapshot of the media reach. We were delighted by all the fantastic support. And for you, you are all trailblazers, and I hope that we can extend this program across Asia Pacific in the future. Next slide, please. I would like to express my gratitude on behalf of the NetAcad team to all the instructors and students who are participating in the program. I hope that you have enjoyed going through the cybersecurity courses, and we thank you for your interest in applying to the internships through the AICTE internship portal. Next slide, please. And so, congratulations to all of you for making it through the selection process. We received over 26,000 applications for the program. And it was across 31 states and UT in India. You now are in a group of over 19,800 students that have been selected. So the hard work is definitely over to you now. We are now in the next step of the program as you get to partake in the cybersecurity event today. I know that you will learn a great deal from the lineup of senior leadership and our technical gurus from CISCO and from Networking Academy. After this session, you will be ready to undertake your internship assignment to design a secure network for your institution. And at the end, be the proud recipient of the joint certificate. Next slide, please. So here is a very, very quick glimpse of our wonderful lineup of speakers today. I'm really excited, as I know I personally will learn so much from these talented experts. Have your questions ready to post so that you can take full advantage of having this team here to respond. Next slide, please. Now, it's important for you to know that there are some exciting goodies and prizes up for grabs as you participate in today's session. So do make sure you participate in our polls and also make sure you share via your social media channels using the hashtag CISCONetacad and hashtag CISCO Cybersecurity Internships, as the most exciting post may fetch you an additional prize along the way. Good luck. Next slide, please. I mentioned that throughout the session, there will be some polls for you to answer along the way. And this will possibly appear on your right-hand side. You'll see some will be Slido. So what I'd like you to do is use your camera and so that you can get the QR code for Slido, which we shall use for our polls. Or alternatively, please make a note of slido.com and the number 011276. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you all so much. Well, now, I think we're all ready to go. And so let's kickstart today's event with a fireside chat session. And I have joining with me today, Debjani Ghosh, President of NASCOM. I have Samir Garg, President of CISCO India and SARC, and Vish Iyer, our Vice President, Architecture Sales, APJC. So welcome, everybody. So, Debjani, hello, good to hear you. So, Debjani, if I may start with you, as I'm sure our students are really keen to learn, what do you think are the key skills required by students to be more employable? And especially considering the disruptive changes that the tech industry at large is going through.
Thank you. Thanks, Marcy. And first of all, my congratulations to the entire CISCO team, Samir, Vish, Marcy, you and your team for launching such, I think, I won't say it's not just important, but I think it's such a needed initiative. You know, in these times, we needed to ensure that students continue to get internships, especially in critical areas like that, like cybersecurity. And coming up with a virtual internship program is just a wonderful idea, and I hope it scales very fast. And congratulations to all the 19,830 students who got shortlisted. Your lives, I'm sure, are about to get changed. It is a fabulous program. You're going to have a fantastic experience. Do make the most of it. I mean, it's just so fabulous for us to be part of this initiative. Going to your question, Marcy, first of all, to all the young people who are attending today, you know, there's been a lot of talk in the last few days about job losses, and are we going to see job losses in technology? And this started based on a report which came out, et cetera, et cetera. So let me put your minds at ease, right? If you look at the real data, if you look at the results of the companies, all the companies, Indian companies, MNCs that are operating in India, you look at the results that the companies are coming up with. Our demand today for skilled workers is higher than supply. And what that means, if you take emerging areas like cybersecurity, data analytics, etc., the number of jobs that are there today are roughly around 8x more than the talent that is available. And we expect, unless we do something about it, we expect that to go up to around 20x. So today, job displacements always happen whenever there's an industrial revolution. It happened when the steam engine, was invented. It happens every time, but that is one side of the story. The other side is job creation of new jobs. And in this, the tech revolution, what we are seeing is the creation of new jobs is much faster than displacements. So net, this industry has continued to hire people, will continue to hire people and create jobs. But it is on you and it is on us to ensure that we get skilled for these new jobs. The type of skills that these jobs need are very different from what was needed earlier. So coming back to your question, Marcy, what is needed for employability? I think first and most important, you need the ability to learn and unlearn. Because no matter how much you know, everything in our industry is changing so fast. Unfortunately, you will always stay a step behind technology. So, what is really important is, and what the most important skill that companies look for at the hiring table, how curious are you? How quickly can you unlearn some of the things you have learned, which is not going to be relevant? And how quickly can you learn some of the new things that are going to be relevant? And you will go through, at least in the good companies, you'll go through a series of questions and exercises in the interview rounds to show your learnability, kind of books you read, the kind of podcasts you listen to, your social media posts, if you've written any articles, your papers, all of this becomes sort of your portfolio and it becomes so important. So the first thing is start building your learnability portfolio from today. And even a little tweet that you put out there contributes to your learnability portfolio or takes away from it. So think about it a bit. Think about what you're putting out there, because whatever you put out in the social media is today your official CV. It doesn't matter how good your resume reads. The company will look at what are you saying out there. So that becomes your official CV. And the other things, in today's world, especially in a hyper digital world, in a hybrid world, we are not going back to full time online, physical offices, etc. We are all going to have hybrid models. The ability to work virtually, the ability to collaborate, a good communication skills, all of this becomes very important. And last but not the least, your technology skills. Now, while it's good to have a sort of broader understanding of technology, but you have to build depth in at least one or two areas. And given how the job scene and everything is playing out in India, three areas which are where we are seeing the maximum demand for talent, where we are seeing the maximum jobs being created. Cybersecurity, tremendously important. Artificial intelligence, especially data analytics, data science, tremendously important. And last but not the least, some of the newer areas around IoT, etc., is also becoming very important, and we're seeing tremendous amount of job creation. So you have to build a strong foundational understanding in these technology areas and pick the areas that interest you the most. Don't try to be a jack of all trades. But even if you pick, cybersecurity is one area where we're seeing so much innovation, so many new jobs coming up. If that's the area, given that you'll have applied for the internship, I'm assuming that's the area of interest. Keep in mind that the skills you know today will be outdated in a year or maybe even in 6 months. And I'm sure Vish will talk more about it. You have to continuously keep up. You have to continuously learn. So the only thing you can do is start enjoying how to learn. Start having a blast learning new things. And the moment you sort of think of learning not as a task, but as something that you enjoy doing, something that gets you ahead, I think that's the biggest strength and the biggest skill you can have for employability. Sorry, Marcy, for that incredibly long answer, but I did want to clarify some of the rumors that are floating around. And I'm sure that all our young friends are very worried about it.
Debjani, I absolutely love that response. I mean, students, so much food for thought for you all, and so encouraging as well, because I think you're 100% right. No one takes on engineering without knowing that it's a constant learning. And students, as you listen, you're on your first stepping stone. There's going to be a long road ahead of this learning. But I love that, that encouraging comment to with regard to just the level of employability with these sorts of skill set. It's very, very encouraging. And I also love the hybrid, that work collaboratively. Students, as you know, as you've gone through your program with CISCO Networking Academy, I hope you've loved those 21st century learning skills that are embedded in the program, all about how you work collaboratively together. No, thank you, Debjani. Really lovely, insightful comments. And Samir, perhaps if I can ask you the next question too. Cybersecurity is something that business have been grappling with, not just India, but certainly globally. So what can you tell us about the potential for professionals in the field?
Hey, thank you, Marcy. Firstly, Debjani, is always wonderful to listen to you. Very, very insightful comments. And I am so excited now. 3 or 4 months ago, when we discussed this with NASCOM and with the AICTE and said we'll do 20,000 internships, I frankly thought we will get there, but I didn't realize we'll get 26,000 applications for 20,000 positions. So absolutely wonderful work done by everybody in all the teams, right? But let me just start with looking at probably the larger picture, right? We are probably staring at the dawn of a new future for India's talent, right? Our world, you probably heard this multiple times, looks very different from what it was 18 months ago. The way we work, learn, consume has dramatically changed, right? The workspace has become hybrid, that's for sure. So it's become very clear that work is what you do, it's not a place you go to, right? And also what has become really important is it's become a lot more intelligent. Work has become a lot more intelligent and automated, right? You're probably not required to be a hunky firefighter going forward. You could probably do firefighting with drones going forward, right? So it's a lot more intelligent than just brawn. I'm sorry, I'm having some power issues here. And I think it's changing and it's transforming today's workers, right? Your future construction workers could be 3D engineers, right? Building homes from behind the desk versus actually being on the field. And I think one of the things that I want to make sure, 2 points that I want to make before I get into the cybersecurity piece very clearly, is roughly 2/3 of the students who are there on this call will end up doing work that hasn't been invented yet, right? And, the pace of invention has been so drastic that in our time, in the 30 years that I've been working, I haven't seen so many inventions come up, right? But you guys, 2/3 of you will work on something that has not been invented yet. The second thing that I want to make sure that all of us understand is that 80% of tech products going forward, and services for that matter, will be built by non-tech professionals, right? It's going to be a very, very important thing. By 2023, 2024, you will find that people who are not considered as technology people will actually be building and giving inputs for a tech product. That is how pervasive technology is going to be. But I think to prepare for this new future, I think it's going to be important how you reinvent in terms of what you learn, where you learn, and how you learn. So I'm going to just quickly talk a little bit about that. And I think rethinking what you learn is going to be very critical to figuring out, identifying the new skill sets that you need and which are more relevant in the future, right? And these do not just have to be technology skills, although this is a program around cybersecurity and I'm saying this. But for example, psychology, language skills are going to be equally important as much as technology skills. And these are no longer considered and viewed as soft skills anymore. These are hygiene determinants of success. From a tech point of view, I think Debjani very well covered those three areas. Skilling revolutions are needed in emerging areas like AI, ML, blockchain, analytics, cloud, robotics, fintech, 5G, IoT. But most importantly, something which is very close to my heart personally is cybersecurity, because that is becoming pervasive. Now, India will have, according to various surveys that have been done, around a shortage of around 1.5 million unfulfilled cybersecurity job vacancies by 2025. So we are getting excited about 20,000, and I actually put a new target for this team that I think we should probably be doing 200,000 internships next year, right? Because if we're going to have that kind of shortage of cybersecurity professionals, we really need to 10x this thing, right? The other is, how do you reimagine how you learn, right? As technology becomes essential to most activities that we do, hybrid models are gaining traction. Students must adapt to and become adept at leveraging hybrid models of skilling. Not only access to the right courses or resources, but to prepare for a hybrid future for work. So, go figure out what are the various resources available. And of course, I will pitch the CISCO NetAcad program, where we are already trained around 500,000 learners in 18 months. And in FY21, we are already at around 300,000 people that we've trained, right? And through these cybersecurity internships, we'll do 20,000 more internships. And then go expand where you learn, right? Today's students have, you guys have probably troves of platforms that you can access, besides the university and the schools, right? If you look at cybersecurity, it's still in a nascent stage, so there's scope for cybersecurity generalists. But as the threatscape landscape becomes more and more complex, specialist skills might be required in cybersecurity, like network security, penetration testing, risk assessment. And these are things which will be way beyond being just a generalist, right? So the opportunity ahead of you and us as a nation is just stupendous, is immense. Now, in my opinion, projected global future skills talent in 2025 is likely to be around 40 to 45 million people. In India's youth can capture around 20%. That's the kind of capture we can have, which is around 8 to 9 million. This is actually a survey done by NASCOM, right? But to make this happen, we need to future-proof India's talent for the digital world, which will help us grow and guarantee our place in the world, right? The last thing that I'll say is that as the threat landscape widens, it also becomes increasingly complex, very, very complex, right? So cyber crime is now a $1 trillion economy. Cyber crime, and I'm not proposing that any of you join that economy in any way, but it's a massive economy, and it's growing faster than any other economy in the world. 1/3 of India's GDP, 1 trillion is 1/3 of India's GDP, which is as big as the GDP of Indonesia, is the size of the cyber crime industry. Okay, and it's growing at 50% from 2018. In India, we had 1.16 million cases of cyber attacks in just 2020, reported cases, okay? About a 300% spike versus 2019. 70% of Indian organizations saw an increase of over 25% on attacks. 25%, guys. This is scary. At the same time, it's an opportunity for all of you. The global ransomware damage, and you heard about the story recently about a pipeline in the US, the global ransomware damage costs will reach around $20 billion, right? So they'll be willing to pay a lot of money to get these cyber specialists if they can prevent that kind of loss. And share prices fall 8 to 10% for a company after it is attacked by a cyber attack. right? So there is, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just trying to tell you that there is an opportunity because this is causing severe damage for industry. The average salary in the US for a cybersecurity job is 140,000 US. 140,000 US. Okay, my son just started at 40% less than that. He's not a cybersecurity professional. So that is 2x of a simple IT engineer. Okay. So a simple IT engineer will get $70,000 in the US. For cybersecurity, you'll get 2x that amount. Now, so you have to make sure that you look at cybersecurity in a way where you can actually save this world from attacks and from losses which are staring us in the face. Huge potential. And this also needs an ecosystem approach. We need every element, government, industry bodies, tech companies, educational institutes, all of us to work together to make this a digital talent nation. So lots that I said over there, Marcy, but I thought I'll use my 5 minutes for everything that I had. Thank you.
Samir, not only scary, but you're right, what an opportunity. I wish I had my time again. Go back and study cybersecurity. Students,
Exactly.
you are on the right track. With those sort of salaries, fantastic news for them all. Just absolutely brilliant. So Vish, clearly, there's an incredible opportunity for professionals in this field. Can you tell us how students can prepare themselves for a career on the right footing?
Hey, thanks, Marcy, and thanks, Devyani and Samir, for really teeing this subject up. And I think I'll take off from where Samir left about saving lives. And if you look at cybersecurity, I like to take an analogy with the space of medicine. And the reason I want to correlate both of them is if you look at the cybersecurity ecosystem, as Samir rightly pointed out, there is so much growth, so much opportunity for each of you. And the first thing is, how do you get started on this journey? Is to focus on the fundamentals. Yes, the Cisco Network Academy is a great place to start. Get your basic skills around operating systems, programming languages like Python, C++, basic security technologies. And I think in this course of this virtual internship, we're going to give a lot of practical hands-on training, which is what companies are really looking for. But just like in the medical space, this would enable you to get the first level entry job, like a cybersecurity technician or an analyst. But there is so much opportunity for each of you, as Devyani said, to learn, unlearn, and there will be new jobs that will be created. And that's where you need to continuously try and innovate. If you want to work with industry certifications, like you want to become a certified ethical hacker, it takes around 3 years of practical experience. You want to go and join and become a CISP, which, if you ask me in the medical context, is like a general practitioner. You can choose to be a qualified cybersecurity professional in this space. But then that's to the point that Devyani brought out so beautifully, is that cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, IoT, data sciences are all coming together. So just like in the medical space, you can choose what you like, what are you good at, and you can choose to specialize to become a neurologist, a radiologist, a cardiologist, and you can choose which area you want to focus on. Samir spoke about penetration testing. If you ask me today, just like we see in wonderful web series, you can be a first-time responder, helping a company prevent or mitigate a cybersecurity crime. And if you really look at this $1 trillion industry, for every hacker out there, you need 10 people who are trying to protect this infrastructure. So there is going to be humongous opportunity for each one of you to learn, unlearn, reskill. And the most important thing is whether you're working in a private institution, whether you're working in a public institution, you would be saving jobs, you would be saving lives, you will be saving reputation. And that is where the opportunity is for each one of you. And in the whole process, this is also going to be a very rewarding career. As Samir rightly pointed out, that there is significant upside. You are starting your career, as you rightly said, Marcy. There can be never a better time. Please lean in with this program and find your calling. I think that's how I see you can absolutely build this. And this ecosystem is going to be as big as the healthcare industry or even bigger.
Amazing. And, a fantastic analogy, I think, on, for the medicine industry. I think you're absolutely right. So students, I hope that you've been listening hard. You've obviously got a lot of learning ahead, given all three speakers today. There's a lot top of mind. You're on the start of your journey. So I hope you've heard directly from the experts now. It's clear that there are so many career opportunities and also some wonderful financial advantages of choosing the pursuit of cybersecurity. Can I ask you one other question, Vish? They're like superheroes, these cybersecurity people that work in this field. But is it a stressful job?
No, it's a rewarding job and it's a fascinating job. It's to the point that Devyani made. It's if you are curious, you will be challenged in this job. You will be challenged to learn, you will be challenged, you will be tested, and your adaptability will be put to test. This is like, if you ask me, I think a cybersecurity job is like, we just had the French Open. The real champions are the ones who can play in clay, who can play in grass, who can play in synthetic and Excel. So I think this career option will absolutely test you and will push you in this ultimate pursuit of excellence. So that's how you should look at it.
Marcy, I'll just add one thing, if I may, Chris. I mean,
yes, Johnny, thank you.
In today's world, you will only survive and thrive in the tech industry if you love solving problems. If you don't, this is not the place for you. Absolutely not the place for you. The tech industry is about problem solving. That's what we do. We do that day in, day out. And the people who really thrive in this industry are those who ace the game when it comes to solving problems. And if you love solving problems, cybersecurity is like the biggest and the best playground that you can get. So I think that's how I see it.
And you get to catch the bad guys.
Yes, I was going to ask you, any last words of advice for our students today?
No, I think it's important that we all understand cybersecurity is not something that you can do with superficial knowledge, right? So I think what I would encourage everyone over here to do is to get deep knowledge. These internships are ways in which you can go and ensure that you challenge yourself to get deeper into this subject. Because the people who are hacking your systems are people with a lot of deep knowledge. So if you have to get against them, you got to be better than them, right? So I think no superficial knowledges. Just don't tick the boxes and say I've done a course. Get deeper if you're really serious about this career.
Devjit, Samir, Vish, thank you so much for your fantastic input today and your participation for all of our students. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Devjani, Samir, Vish, and Marcy for such an insightful fireside chat session. And we are so thrilled to see thousands of students and instructors joining us today on the live broadcast. And we have an exciting line of speakers and experts lined up for you for another 2.5 hours when you will stay with us. And don't forget to engage with us on the polls. Take your selfie, share your experience onto social media with the hashtag. And now I would like to invite one of our great speakers, Vishak Raman, who is our Director of Security Business. Vishak, over to you.
Thank you, Ishwinder. I hope I'm audible. So what a perfect stage what Devyani and Samir and Vish have set, and I will try to sort of cover what's the global cyberspace is heading towards. What are the trends? What are the challenges practitioners are actually facing? And what are the opportunities for student community? to kind of walk the cybersecurity career path, right? So let me start off by giving you a color of where the security industry is moving towards. Next slide. If you really look at the security industry, it all started with the great grand firewall, where it's going to block all the unwanted incoming and outgoing connections back to the networks. That's how we know of any security guy, he's a good firewall guy, right? But if you really look at where the industry has moved in the last 20 years from the day in which the first firewall came in, it's moved beyond the sense of trust. It's moved to actually an element of time, right? And if you really look at what customers and practitioners are all always looking for is three simple parameters. How do I look at reducing my time to hack from a hacker's point of view, right? But from a practitioner's point of view, how I'm going to increase the time to hack and keep defending my setup. The other second parameter is time to detect. Is my detection is going to be close to about 180 days, which is the actual average APJC average. How do I going to reduce that time to detect? How do I find out that bad guys are actually in my setup? And the last, okay, we've been hacked, but how do I get back to my business from a normalcy point of view? While you'll hear a lot about the feature set, the products, and all of that, but it is moved towards an element of time. And what better way to actually simplify cybersecurity into all these three parameters and explain to the students that what they should be pursuing from here on. Let's look at what are the parameters around time to hack, right? Next slide, please. So if you look at the time to hack, it's actually sort of decreasing because cyber attacks are becoming no more the monetary focus, the fun focus, but it is becoming a lot more geopolitical than ever before. And the pandemic has actually accelerated. If you look at, read this last year report of House of Commons Committee submitted in UK, you will clearly see they barred a specific country vendors in participating in their 5G trials because they were able to establish the credentials of that country's state sponsorship towards cybersecurity, right? And they actually clearly explained the linkages and how the government was actually, funding to a specific group. So it's very clear it's becoming geopolitical. And for the first time in the history, we saw Facebook and Twitter taking down, political taking down very specifically around cybersecurity across 9 countries. And this is really happening around us. And for the first time, we saw a ransomware group, ClopLeaks, actually demanding a 20 million ransomware from a German software giant. And it was a network hack, the data was encrypted. So no more cybersecurity is about give me 30 Bitcoins, but it is transforming, as Samir said, ransomware is on the rise, and the hacking group is looking at anywhere between 1% to 9% of the annual revenues. And this is what is the reality per se. And we've seen such hacks happening. And back in our Indian setup, we've seen a targeted group called Operation Side Copy, looking at our Indian Defense Forces and trying to take out content via email vector and very specifically taking out documentation. So it's very clear time to hack will be a lot more state funded and a lot more, you will see this as cybercrime as a service being delivered. Next slide, please. So if you look at what is really happening on the time to hack point of view, as I said, it is state funded. And we are also seeing cybercrime as a service. For the first time, we saw a group called Revel, which actually threw in $1 million worth of Bitcoins for recruitment. So this is real around us in terms of cybercrime as a service being delivered. And CISCO Talos, which is our threat research organization, published a detailed report on a group called Gamma Red On. And they actually do cybercrime as a service, and they are spread across 43 countries. And they own close to about 1,700 IPs. And it's a very detailed report for all of you to go through. And the recent incident, what we saw, the SolarWinds hack, the supply chain hacks, which actually happened. And this is turned to the tables of following an executive order to block the supply chains from and having a stringent supply chain policy. So if you really look at cybersecurity, is moved away from just a money making to more geopolitical, and this is why time to hack is completely external, and it is kind of decreasing. If you are a decent network, it takes for a state sponsorship a group to hack is about less than 20 minutes. So we are stepping into an era of state sponsorship and cybercrime as a service. And these are two things which we have never seen. Next slide, please. So when you look at time to hack, back in Indian setup, what are we seeing in the Indian market? I know it's a busy chart, but if you really look at what we have done is we pulled in all the threat vulnerabilities, which was published in mid of 2020. And we thought of looking at what are the synthesis, what we can take out of these learnings. And we compared with 2019 and 20, what has actually changed, right? 2019 was very, very network-focused attacks. And next slide, please. When you really look at taking all these vulnerabilities published by CERT, we saw all of these threats emerging out of 4 key important vectors. First, email vector is still ruling the roost. So more and more customers are augmenting their email infrastructure. Contrary to the fact that we all think that email security has been there, you have an antivirus protection, you have an anti-spam protection, you're good at your email. But what we're seeing is customers are increasing their setup security with anti-phishing and domain protection, right? How do I protect my domain? How do I make sure that my email is not forged to send out a malicious campaign? So email vector is the number one. Second, we very surprisingly saw during the pandemic was identity theft. So hackers are no more actually spending a lot of time in penetrating your setup, but they simply go to your cloud login, get your administrative login, and then come back into your data center as a legitimate user. So we call that as cloud jacking in the practitioner world. So customers are started putting geofencing, whereby they're saying, I'm going to look at who is accessing, what time he's accessing, from which device. So essentially, you are putting grills around your user identity, you're putting around device identity and application identity. And cloud is also kind of adopted big during the pandemic. And we are seeing what customers used to enjoy at on-premise now shifted back into a cloud-based visibility. And do I get the same visibility and control what I used to get at on-premise? And the last important vector was endpoint, because we all used to work at home, not work at home before, but work at the office setup. What it used to be your last line of defense, because you got to go through all your perimeter defense and come towards the end. Because of working from home, what you see is that's as your first line of defense. So endpoint control was very, very imminent race between defenders and practitioners like us, but also the hackers trying to take control of the endpoint. So if you as students getting into cybersecurity code, will be an important area for you to look at your cybersecurity protection part of it. Of course, it's followed with security posture analysis, spending a little bit more time towards looking at your attacker's path, and a lot more importance is being given on cyber drill employee training. So while I touched upon the 4 important security threat vectors, but these processes are also equally important. Next slide, please. So we want to share what Cisco is being able to get with practitioners and share some thoughts and also make it a little bit more fun in terms of students, sort of engaging with the security practitioners' perspective as such. So this is a survey what Cisco did across 13 countries, across about 2,800 security professionals. And we went ahead to look at what are the challenges practitioners are actually facing to look at reducing their time to detect, going back to the context of where the industry is moving. Next slide, please. So if you really look at the challenges, if I have to summarize, what practitioners came back and said is, the most important part is how do I get more visibility of my setup? The more I make it very simple to detect the detectable, it's easier for me to know whether I'm compromised or not. And you got to look at a setup whereby you get threat intelligence coming to our doorsteps. The threats which is actually happening in your on-premise has this part of the threat being seen across the globe. So threat intelligence becomes an important area for research, and students who are actually stepping into the career path on cybersecurity, this is going to be the future. Threat intelligence, coming and being consumed by organizations will become a lot more important. And analytics and automation are the third and fourth pillar, which is actually gaining a lot more preference. So with this, we want to keep it a little bit more interactive. And my next slide, please. So we want to hear from you and keep this a little bit more interactive. What do you think as students, what are the top priorities for Chief Information Security Officer? Again, that's a good career path of being a CISO of an organization and defend the setup against the bad guys. What do you think the top priorities for CISO to reduce or maybe detect a threat quickly? And the four choices where is, I don't need to log in from one product to the second product. Maybe I don't want to log in from an email security console to an endpoint console. So console hopping between security products. Second choice is alert fatigue. I'm inundated with so much of threats. Which threat to actually go back and actually look into it? And the third part is security automation. How do I bring in automation between security products? And the fourth option is a vendor consolidation, whereby I don't need to buy for my 20 different vectors, 20 different security products. How do I simplify security, right? So we got to hear from you all. What are the top priorities? What a CISO is actually planning. And you do have the fifth option, all of the above. So fastest fingers first, and you have some exciting prizes to take the good guess. Ishwendra, are we ready for the prizes?
Yes, we are all set.
Excellent. So we'll give a couple of seconds to give the results pulled in. Go for the best shot, students. And imagine you've got a job at a CISO and you've got to prioritize all of that. And that's the way you will learn. All right. Do we have the results?
Yeah, Vishak, it will come. Let's continue, and it will come to you. Then we can discuss it.
Excellent. We just want to make it a little bit fun so that you guys win some prizes. And at the same time, you learn anything out of the session, what the CISOs are actually thinking. All right. Ishwendra, should we move on to the next question?
Yes, Vishak. We can move on, and then let's come back to discuss. So you'll just
Sure,
get it in
sure. So next slide, please. So we want to actually give the results out. What are the top challenges every CISOs are actually facing? Close to, I would say, 80% of them actually said console hopping is the biggest problem what they're facing. I have a point problem. I log into a console. How do I jump from one console to another console? So can security be simplified across one uniform threat dashboard? And that is what practitioners are actually saying. And if you look at it, the second part, in terms of automation, as high as about 77% of them have said about security automation is important. So when you step in and choose your summer projects, your internship projects around, look at the area where you can actually look at automation and security. And more importantly, alert fatigue. Look at the magnitude of alert fatigue, which is actually happening in the cybersecurity space. And followed with close to about 86% of them have actually consolidated to less than 20 vendors, right? So there is significant opportunity for students to pick and address these top problems of time to detect, be it console hopping, security automation, alert fatigue management, and vendor consolidation. Let's share the results, Ishwinder, if you have, and keep it a little bit more interactive with the students.
Yeah. So as per our audience, the top priority for CISO to detect a threat, like 60% says that all of the above. Again, 20% says security automation, and around 11.2% people say console hopping between security products. Then around 5.4% say alert fatigue, and 2.8% say vendor consolidation. So most of the vote goes to all of the above.
Excellent, excellent. That correlates well. So all the fastest fingers first. Your prizes are on your way, but I think we want to make this a little bit more fun so that you guys learn the cybersecurity taxonomy a little bit. So now let's shift to time to remediate. What are the challenges? Next slide, please. So the time to remediate challenges, I think Samir alluded as that very well. We are stepping into a hybrid cloud, right? And if you look at it, the endpoint devices are growing phenomenally high. And we have application complexities. Everything is delivered on mobile first, right? And of course, you still have your legacy network, which is still going to be an on-premise. So how do I make sure I remediate once I know I detected my threats? How do I go and remediate that? What are the challenges? Because you're getting into a complex hybrid world and it's application centric, and the device attack surface is expanded beyond your traditional IT, laptop, PC, mobile to IoT device, and as well as network. So the next question, what I have for the young Turks like you is, what are the challenges? Next slide, please. What are the challenges which are being communicated by CISOs in terms of remediation? Let's look at the questions. Top priorities for security information officer to remediate a threat, right? Let's hear from you all. I think Cisco TV will flash the questions. The options, what you have is malware, malicious spam, ransomware, unpatched systems, more importantly, system downtime, and all of the above. And this is a fun way to read into the CISO's mind. What is their top priority, right? And we'll while you guys take some time to poll, let me switch gears and then share with you the findings after 5 seconds so that we don't leak out the answers back to you. All right. All right. So we have the poll questions flashed up, Ishwinder?
Yes, it is live. Check.
It's live? Okay. So let me repeat the question again. If we have to remediate a threat, and what are the top priorities the CISOs are saying, the Chief Information Security Officer saying? Is it malware, malicious ransomware, or is it unpatched system, or is it system downtime, or all of the above? So if you have missed your all of the above questions at 60%, I'm saying we need not be the right answer, guys, but I'm going to play a little bit of trick around here so that you guys get to know about these terms.
Yeah. So Vishak, we have the results now. Again, 67% 67% student feel all of the above, and 18.5 feel remediate a threat. Then the next is 11.3% student voted for malware, malicious span, and ransomware. And then unpatched system and system downtime is a tie with 1.6% each.
Excellent, excellent. Next slide, please. Let's see what the real CISOs gave us as a feedback. The challenges, what they said is malware is number one, number two is malicious spam and phishing. This is what the CISOs are actually saying. And vulnerability from an unpatched system, close to about 46% of them have said yes, unpatched system causes the breach. And this is addressable as practitioners, right? And if you look at it, the time to remediate is anywhere between 45% of them have said like 5 to 16 hours. That's a real business disruption. So this is a real world, results back to the students. Next slide, please. So if you really look at where the security market is actually moving in, is adding a new security is like, it's a double-edged sword, right? It gives customers new functionality, but what is more important is you got to build. You got to build with a foundation, and the foundation comes with actually not pivoting between interfaces, spending too much time on integration. The real problem area is security is still not stepped into a platform-based approach, and we think a platform-based approach will dominate over the point products. And the reason why we are saying is, next slide, please. If you look at it, the landscape has expanded. Network, your endpoint, your cloud, your application. And if you get into an actual real-life setup, which is what you will do in your internship project, where looking at the cybersecurity posture of your own institute, and I know Ishwinder has planned for that. So when you approach that internship problem, given it to you, don't just look at the network. Look at the endpoint. Look at what are the devices as students you are carrying in. And look how the college is actually connected back into the cloud. And what are the applications the college is actually looking into it, right? And of course, security can't work in silos. It has to work with third party. It has to work with intelligence. And most important, your identity has to be sort of stored over there. So where it is converging is towards security is converging towards a platform-based approach, where you can integrate everything in your environment, get a unified visibility, and perform automation. And most important is incident response. So this is what the market is actually heading towards. Next slide, please. So when you get into the real world, once after going through the internship program, you got to really look at which areas, because cybersecurity is very vast. If you look at it, it's not just about technology. Like work from home, we all think it's going to be a lot more technology of VPNs, firewalls, DNS security, encryption, all of that. No, it's just one part of the puzzle. There are other parts of the puzzle where you can put in your learning and antennas around as learning students. Security operations is gaining a lot more importance, right? Incident response, when an actual incident happens, how do you respond to it? And most importantly is how do you look at enabling your workforce against social engineering attacks? So training is an important part. So when you get into the real world, just don't think about the technology part of it. It's just 30% of it, right? The rest is processes, rest is about people, and processes also plays a very important role. And my last slide to young budding cybersecurity professionals, how do you step in? Next slide, please. So if you look at it, I think Samir spoke about the stats about cybersecurity. That's close to about 1.5 million. Cybersecurity will be open by 2025. So there's a tremendous opportunity what we have. The choices what you students make is hands-on technical, security operations, consultants, and the real-life CISOs, the defenders, or even looking at a sales from a product point of view, right? You got to up your skills on IoT, You got to look at CyberOps Associate, and Cisco has a CCNA security programming per se. And Vish spoke about scripting, Python, C++, DevNet. This is a product knowledge. And most importantly, right now, start early with cloud security. No more, it's just net flows. It's about mega flows in what's happening on your VPC. So pick up early courses on cyber. Most importantly, stay put. Next. And cybersecurity is not just reading the technology and looking at the customer problem, because there is a third axis, which is the adversaries. So start reading about your adversaries, and you got to learn and think like a hacker if you really want to defend against them. That's a very important learning skill. And study hard. And I think Samir alluded to the point. The cybersecurity space is very vast. And if you are going and choosing this, make sure that you master a few topics. You cannot be a master for across the horizontal part, right? And more importantly, look at picking up whether you want to be a SOC operations and the courses around that. Let's say if you want to go deep into the technical part of it, then certified ethical hacking is a good tool to actually sort of start up with. And finally, as a career, it is a 24/7, 365 days job, but it is extremely rewarding, both financially and also you get the pride of emotion of kicking the bad guys out very hard. So it's an exciting opportunity, and I'm so happy to be part of this virtual internship program and sharing with our real life world examples what we see in the marketplace. Back to you, Ishwinder.
Thank you, Vishak. Thank you, Vishak, for such a wonderful session. And it was mind-blowing for me. And I hope it will be same for all the students, thousands of people who are right now watching us live. And I would also like to thank each and everybody to participate very actively in the poll. And we are seeing good response there. So there are many polls to become, which will be coming. We have the social media activity, which is on. So be on to it. Now, as you have heard from Vishak, that global perspective of cybersecurity and how he deep dived at a country level and then at the organization level, let's hear something from the practitioner mind. So I would like to invite Ashraf, who is our leader in cybersecurity systems engineering at Cisco. Ashraf, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Ishwinder. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Happy to be here, excited to be here talking to a massive audience of budding cybersecurity talents. So next slide, please. So we got an exciting lineup of content. I'm going to start with talking about evolution of cyber threats, knowing the why, what, and how behind the cyber threats and what kind of defenses one should have to defend against them. Following me, my colleagues Praveen and Mansi will talk about the anatomy of attacks and why we need experts for cybersecurity. This is outside the realm of IT skill set, right? Of course, you need to have the IT skill set to become an expert of cybersecurity, and why we need experts there. So Mansi will cover that. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm sure everyone is familiar with this quote, right? From The Art of War or Sun Tzu. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do for the next 15, 17 minutes. I'm going to take you through how the enemy thinks, the hackers, the threat actors, how do they build their infrastructure? How do they go about and what's their motivation for all this? How do they monetize it and things like that? So we will go through that. Next slide, please. Okay, a brief history of cyber threats. We know, cyber threats started as viruses and worms, right? The key intent of those viruses and worms is just to create disruption. Robert Morris created a Morris worm, and all he was after is show his talent. He was trying to prove that a computer system created by somebody has flaws, right? So that's how the hacktivism or hacking, history started from there. There was never a motive of money there, right? It was mostly around talent and fame. But over a period of time, we have started seeing that evolving as a criminal activity, cybercrime, cyber espionage. What started as disruption today, we are seeing those kind of activities evolving to spyware. They're after data theft. They're trying to hold information for ransom, or they're trying to launch an attack on an e-commerce business, holding them ransom for releasing that infrastructure for real world business. For example, there are festival days where you see e-retail companies launching campaigns. So they have to keep their lights on to make sure that their customers are going through the business transactions. Those are the times even hackers visit them, and they want their services to be attacked and hold them ransom for going through those 1 or 2 days of sale period, right? These are real world situations that we go through. In the current situation, we are seeing there are 3 or 4, rather the 4th one is evolving. Cyber criminals, yes, we can put them under one bucket. Hacktivism, organizations like I wouldn't call it anonymous is one of the groups which is doing hacktivism there. And we also have nation states today. We are hearing very often North Korea, China, Russia getting involved in cross-border activities, which is related to nation state attacks. So that's also becoming common. And a lot of the industry experts are predicting cyber terrorism, and that's also something that we have seen in the past. Next slide, please. So how did we get here? How did cybercrime evolve? How are they using tech, right? Those days, let's say, moving away from the viruses and worms, even if you were to create an infrastructure to launch a massive attack, you need servers, just like any other organization, IT estate. You need servers, you need compute infrastructure, you need network infrastructure. It should be distributed across. You need to have network bandwidth. All this is expensive, right? Individuals can't build it. You need a lot of funds. It's very expensive to do that. Today, cybercrime is actually an ecosystem. We have distributed set of people, right? There are things that are happening which are, you will not believe. There are things that are happening the same way it's happening in the IT world, IT businesses, outsourcing. That's happening in the cybercrime, ecosystem. So you can buy services, cybercrime as a service, right? You don't have to be an expert to launch an attack on a specific organization, right? You can always buy services. So it's available as a service. The very system that is available today in the form of SaaS, in the form of as a service to any business organization, is also being misused today to launch attacks, right? Rental servers, rental services. So that's another reason why we are seeing many cyber attacks happening these days. And one important thing, I'm sure everyone has spotted that icon on this slide, the Bitcoin, right? That is one of the biggest milestones for the cybercrime industry, right? It kind of helped them, monetize very, very easily. And then that's very real today. If we look at the ransomware timelines as well, we'll go through that. Next slide, please. Okay, so monetizing cybercrime, I talked about Bitcoin, which is making it anonymous, so anonymous transactions can happen. So does the hacker monetize directly, right? There are 2 ways you can monetize it as a hacker. I mean, I'm not encouraging this, or this is completely a no-no for this audience. I'm only talking about the enemies or the bad actors' perspective of it, right? So direct realization. So you are hacking. As a hacker, you are actually hacking a bank or hacking a POS, point of sale system. You're getting information on credit cards, CVVs, right? So these are information that is data that is stolen, and it can be used directly to get monetized, right? You can drain a bank account, use a card, or do anything with that. There's an indirect model as well, right? You don't have to catch the fish and go to market and sell, right? There's a market, you are a wholesaler, and there are retailers, right? So the same thing exists in the cybercrime ecosystem as well. So what you net in the sea can be sold to somebody else who in turn makes money out of it, right? So that happens. So there's an indirect model, and there is a sell-in ecosystem. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do they go about? The first thing for an attack to materialize is I need to get that piece of malicious software, right, into your environment. Not for the olden day virus worm to create disruption. I want to take control of that environment, right? I can distribute it. I can sprinkle it out through some of the commonly used, internet content, or I can target an organization, craft something that is targeted for that organization. For example, what you see here on the screen is an email that is coming to an employee. This is an email that came to me from my organization just to make sure that we are all aware of all these cyber crimes, right? So most of it is masked. So you can see here it says the mailbox is full. Click here to get your mailbox extended. And it says you're using 20 GB and it's all full. Next click. Yeah, so if you look at the settings, if you're a knowledgeable employee, you can always go back and look at your mailbox settings and see, okay, my mailbox is actually given for 99 GB. Why should I even have this, right? But not every employee in an organization can do this. So there will be non-IT resources who are given access to mail, but they cannot understand all this, right? So these are the weaknesses the hackers go after. They want you to click, and they want you to be redirected to an environment through which they can start, going through the phase of the different stages of attack. If I click next. So it can also be an attachment, right? An attachment that is very common. Let's say it says increase in pay, right? Something like that. Maybe, the person who's actually accessing it may not even think twice. He wants to click it immediately, right? Next click. And build it out, please. Yeah, so one is email. Email is the #1 threat vector today because you can send email to anyone as long as you know the target email address. The other way of getting a person to click is what's called malvertising, right? It's just like advertising. You can have things that are available from popularly known websites as an ad campaign, and you can expect people to click there and redirect them to the sites or the web properties where you have the malicious software that you want to get into that end user environment. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is an example of an ad. Next slide, please. So these are real world campaigns. So what you're seeing is CBS TV websites having ad campaigns, websites of Jerusalem Post, Huffington Post. These are not websites, the organization's block. These are maybe under a category media or news, right? You're allowed to access these websites, but within those, bad actors can embed these content for malvertising and get you to click and get you to a infrastructure from where the malicious code can get downloaded. Next slide, please. And exploit kits, another click. So these are, again, very low-cost tools that are available to bad actors, right? Again, as I said, you don't have to be an expert on Linux or expert on Windows to go through these things, right? These are tools available. You buy these tools. All you have to do is get this tool to be executed on the target or the victim's environment, or sprinkle it across the internet make sure, and the tool, these are going to call home, what you call phone home or command and control, and it's going to tell you that, okay, I did this campaign, and the last 1 week, we've netted probably 200,000 PCs. So I have malicious software right now sitting in 200,000 PCs, right? This is what, it's like throwing your net into the sea and then pulling it out. You have so many fishes already with you. You're not yet done anything bad. You've just captured the environment. You have control of that environment. Next slide, please. And there are these things like droppers where, these are conduits for you to actually take control of the environment and make more out of it. For example, I can stay in a organization with a dropper stealthily, like what they call going under the radar. If the security tools there are something that I could deceive and make money out of it over years. And these are real world situations that are happening. And as you can see, these tools are available. These are old data. I'm not encouraging anyone to go there, but it's very, very easy to get that. Next slide. And these are tools like, there are tools like RATs, remote access Trojans. Like it's like Swiss Army knife, right? The moment you get it in, you can use it for any purpose of hacker. Do you want to exfiltrate data? Yes, it has a module. Do you want to record the audio? Turn on the video, turn on the audio, there's a module, right? You just want to gather information of the server, there's a module. Log keystrokes, there's a module. So it's like, a tool built for hackers, and all you have to do is get it in, right? And then that's it. Next slide. And ransomware. Today, ransomware is so very common and popular. We have many situations of ransomware happening. You will not believe some of your, some of the businesses that you would not have imagined have gone through ransomware attacks. And ransomware is nothing but taking over an organization's data, which is of interest, which is of business value, and then asking them for ransom, you encrypting that or exfiltrating that data, threatening them to release it in the media or out in the public for not paying ransom, right? So those are activities of ransomware. Next click. So these are the timelines for some of the ransomwares that happen. Again, you can see the icon there, the Bitcoin, right? After Bitcoin network got launched, you see a lot of ransomware attacks happening across the globe. And even today, it's very, very common form of attack. One of the most successful form of attacks that the bad actors have gone through. Another click. And you can find this in Google, right? I'm not talking about, Fortune 500s, Fortune 100s. These are photo studios, right? All that they have is a hard drive full of digital information. They click photos, they store it, and they have to deliver it to get money from their customers. And this could be wedding photos. They got hit by ransomware, and all they have is a screen on one fine day. And you know what happens, right? Most of them use unlicensed software, cracked software. It's easy to enter these, and these are sprinkled ransomwares that got in there. Next slide. So build it out, please. So this is how the ransomware works, right? You either go to a compromised website, you either go through a phishing scam. All the hackers interested is make you click, and then you click on it. You're launched to a target where the malicious payload gets downloaded. It's either a dropper, an exploit kit, or a rat. It stays in your environment, or it's just making money for that moment. So it's ransomware and then taking. So this is what is happening. This is the whole process of ransomware. Next slide, please. So the attacks stay for days, not just momentary, right? There's no point in time attacks, right? If you can capture an attack, as soon as possible, early detection, lower impact, the attacks can stay for years and for months, right? And we saw the intent why, right? They want to be stealthy and they want to make enough out of that attack. Next slide. So we have so many ways of defining these attacks, but we need a method to the madness. And this is something that Praveen will go through in detail. There are different stages of attack, and we can catch an attack or stop an attack in different stages. The earlier we stop, the better. There's a stage for targeting, compromise, and breach. I will not go into the depth. Praveen will talk about it next slide. And we also have frameworks. It's like an encyclopedia. MITRE ATT&CK framework is an encyclopedia of what are the possible ways the bad actors can hit you, the many ways of attacking, different tactics, techniques. This framework is actually open to anyone for reference. If somebody is actually practicing cybersecurity defense, this is the thing to go. I would recommend you, all you guys, to go through this. There's enough training material available here as well. They track groups. They're actually tracking bad actors, the tools they use, and even mitigations. How can you stop? So you can see the numbers, and it's only growing. Next slide. So that's the whole time of attack. The evolution of attack. Right now, let's quickly go through the defense part of it. So when you are building defense, there are many aspects to building defense, right? When we looked at the phases of attack, you can put them under 3 buckets: before an attack, during an attack, and after an attack. We call it attack continuum. So you can build defense that's helping you to discover, enforce, or harden before an attack. So you can build all the preventive measures in the before phase. During phase, you should have tools that helps you to detect or defend or block the attacks. And the vectors could be network, endpoint, it could be mobile devices, which is also coming into an organization and going. And today there's a lot of cloud. And a better defense is to cover for 3 areas: visibility, whether you can defend or not, have an eye on all the assets, all the entry points, all the threat vectors. Prevention is by segmentation, and threat protection is where you can go through the investigation and remediation part. Next slide. Yeah, and then next slide. So if I look at the flow of a employee or a clerk trying to access a payment gateway, payment applications in a bank, right? This is the flow. You have an endpoint, a client, and a server, and a network in transit. What are the defenses that I can build within? It's all about giving you visibility. It's all about addressing that before, during, and after scenario. Can you build the slide, please? So first off, focus on network perimeter. Then look at layer 4 and above, right? In OSI layers, application visibility, server-side security, identity, who is connecting, what is connecting, where is it connecting from, how is it connecting from. So all these aspects will be covered when you look at these defenses, the defense capabilities that we are seeing in the flow. Next slide. And if I look at the end-to-end flow, there are many capabilities that we can insert. You might be familiar with firewalls, you might be familiar with antivirus, which is commonly used, but there are many other aspects of cybersecurity defense one has to insert. Not everything has to be in line. Some will be a passive solution, which is actually listening to the conversation, looking for threats. There could be active defense, which is actually in line, blocking bad, sending good, or sending only good, right? So those are the defenses that you can build. Next slide. And you can apply defenses, build this slide, please. You can apply defenses based on different stages and ensure that you have it covered for all stages of an attack. Next slide. And going back to build the slide, please. Going back to the flow of how the ransomware attack happens, you can insert these defenses and make sure that there's no way, I mean, whether it's an initial stage of an attack, or is it an exfiltration of, or a stage where there is execution happening, or CNC callback happening, phone home happening, or encryption happening. Any of these stages, you can insert defenses to make sure you can address that. And then the final slide. Yeah, so just to conclude, we looked at the evolution in different stages. Today, it's not just disruption, it is all about, you know, monetization. The defenses are evolving continuously. Skill shortage is a big challenge for this industry, and you know, I'm sure all you guys are going to be an expert and someday in cybersecurity defense. Thank you for listening. I'll hand it off to Praveen for taking the next module.
Thank you, Ashok. So folks, first of all, hello, good afternoon. And I'm quite sure all of you are feeling quite enriched with all the valuable information that has been flowing your way. So in next few minutes, probably you can relax. I'm going to tell you a story of cyber attack and how the defenders, the security practitioners fend off these attacks, how we make our organization stay secure, regardless of how much our new technologies come in place, how much our new malwares are in the market. We constantly keep an eye on what happens in our network and how we protect all our asset and information. So let's dive in. Next slide, please. So I will, like I promised you, I'm going to tell you a story. That would be the part 1 of my content. Next will be a cyber chain attack. We will split entire social engineering story that I will tell you across the cyber kill chain. Then I will tell you how the defenders work, the view of security operations. And finally, I will give you a glimpse on what are the different roles, what powers you have in cybersecurity. Next slide, please. So before I get to my story, let's see the havoc and panic that all these threat actors create. Ashraf did give you a lot of details about it. I will quickly give you a glance of the impact of these attacks. For instance, in 2017, Equifax, a customer credit reporting agency, the CEO had to resign. They were hit by such a major attack that almost 1.35 billion was the cost of incident. 143 million customer records were lost, and the reasons were multiple. We know about ransom attack in last 2 years that has really picked up. There are reports that 102% is the spike in ransomware attacks, and no industry, no sector is safe from it. Even healthcare, which is so important for all of us in the current era, in the current situation that we are in, even that is not safe. The healthcare industry has experienced $21 billion of loss. Plus, as you could see, nearly 1,700 days of downtime. So you could imagine how many lives would have suffered because of it. Plus, the industry had to pay a ransom of nearly 2 million. Then we have a very recent Twitter incident where the who's who of the industry, be it the president of one of the powerful nations, be the CEOs of a multi-billion-dollar company, no one is spared. Even their accounts got hacked. And one of the major vectors here in play is social engineering. And that's one of the most lethal ones, which has the highest hit rate. And that's what the story is, what you're going to hear from me next. Next slide, please. So as you could see, this is a story about sheep wolf. Is the wolf in the skin of sheep? We all would have known, we would have heard this story during our childhood. And what you're going to see is this story is quite real when it comes to cybersecurity. Next slide, please. Kindly build it up. So this story revolves around two fictitious characters. Our first character is the antagonist. We call him a fictitious name, Clay, and he is quite a smart person with a lot of technical skill, know-hows about how malware works, how he can build a payload, deliver it. He is smart in terms of technical work, but his hidden skills are around social engineering. He is very good in connecting and building trust. And as part of his social engineering activity, he researches all the different public domain available information. He first zeroes onto the target. He figures out the information that the target has put on across all the social network, across the public domain. He builds a profile. With that profile, he knows what is the full name. So what we call it in our industry is PII. It stands for personal information. So all that personal information is available at his disposal. He even knows the pattern that the individual follows. He knows what are the likes and dislikes of that individual. And as you know, we all are slaves of our habit. We make things easy for ourselves by drawing a pattern. So when I talk about the pattern, it's about what all activities do we do. So once all this information is aggregated against an individual, it's quite easy to befriend that person. And that's where our antagonist Clay identified Lisa as a happy-go professional and identifies what all are her likes and dislikes. And based on that, he starts to appear at various locations where she frequents. And this is not up on the face kind of activity. He does it in a very subtle manner. He could even approach through a common friend. He could come up he could show up in her favorite coffee place. And eventually he builds that rapport with his target. And once that trust is built, that's where he actually gets the most valuable information as to who that person is in her professional life. And he gets the info as she works for a financial firm. She's a database administrator. That's a very good thing for him, because if he's able to breach into that organization, that too into an account of a data center administrator, there is a treasure chest at his fingertips. Now, with that information, with the rapport he has built with the individual, he is going to craft his weapon. He is going to send an email, and that email will have a PDF, and that PDF could be something which exploits a zero-day vulnerability. So I hope you folks are familiar with zero-day vulnerability. It's something which is yet to be known to the market, even to the vendor whose product it belongs to. But he doesn't resort to just one vector. He goes ahead and puts a link as well. He understands that Lisa is quite interested in tech talks, so he builds even a URL, a fake URL, which could, if she clicks on it, it could actually download probably a rat agent. And I'm sure by now you know what rat is. Ashraf covered that part. So he attempts options of utilizing different vectors. And the moment we start to believe on someone, that's when we put down our guards. And that's exactly the moment when such events occur and whole of the security controls goes for a toss. And in our story, Lisa, of course, knows him very well, goes ahead and opens the PDF. And voila, our antagonist, he had got into the network. He has bypassed all the peripheral controls that were looking outwards. Now he is into the organization's network. Next slide, please. So, folks, there's going to be a quick poll. Please do take out your mobile phones, scan the QR code, or you can go to slido.com and punch in this code and go ahead and give an answer to the question that will appear on the Slido as well as on the next slide. Next slide, please. Can we move to the next slide? We can take a look at the results later. I would like to have my slides projected once more. Wonderful. Now, anyway, we have our results in front. So, right, I'm quite glad to see a lot of folks have their mind at the right place. Yes, through this social engineering, the threat actor has actually taken off the personal information. But even beyond that, what he has gained is the trust of that individual. And once you trust someone, there is a belief that the person whom you are trusting will not deceive, will not betray you. And that's what exactly is getting exploited. So it doesn't mean that you should not trust anyone. Humanity stands on trust and kindness. But when you trust something, verify your actions against what you are trusting. With that, can we have the slide back? Wonderful. So the message that I want you to take away from this is social engineering is going to exploit the human weakness at when we are at a emotionally elevated state. It could be the state of fear. It could be the state of anger, guilt, the guilt from not being able to help someone. It could be the curiosity of wanting to know something. It could be the anger that I did not clear the exam, I did not get my appraisal. And that's the moment when we put down our guards. And that's the moment when the threat actors are going to strike. So now you know how the most valuable asset for an organization, that is its own employees, could be the weakest link in cybersecurity. Now let's move to the next phase where we will understand how defenders are going to map this attack onto something what we call the cyber kill chain. Now this term is coined, cyber kill chain is being coined by Lockheed Martin. They are one of the defense suppliers, and this term again is inspired from the term kill chain, which comes from defense, from military. Next slide, please. So we talked about how Clay went around doing all his work and finally getting into the network. Now let's see from the eyes of a security practitioner, from the eyes of a defender, how he or she is going to map that attack. And by the way, this is one of the most simplest model available in security. There are quite complex models. And one of the real nice models that Ashraf called out is the MITRE TTPs, which stands for tactics, technique, and procedures. So there are a lot of ones, but this is the easiest one to understand. So quickly running through those different states. First, the first state is where the attacker is actually going to get all the details from the victim. Then he moves to weaponizing that data or that malware into a payload. With that weaponization, he's going to deliver the content. That's where Clay happened to send the email to Lisa. And once it's delivered, and it's not just phishing, it could be a bait attack. In bait attack, you could find a USB laying outside your house, a USB laying outside your office. And out of curiosity, you may plug it in. But that's where you have to remember, it might be something which carries some malware. Once it's delivered, the user goes and clicks or plugs the USB in, the actual malware will get detonated. That's where the exploitation happens. The malware is going to exploit the vulnerability. Once that exploitation happens, the malware is going to get its footprint into that device. That's where the installation comes. Once it's been installed, then it depends upon what kind of malware it is. And most of the times the malware would move into a stealth mode. And from then on, although for the user, it could be a normal system, but that the malware would have started doing its work. Let's take the case of ransomware. If it was a ransomware malware, it will start picking up all the data, sending it across to the command and control centers. It could be creating its own backup. And when the right moment comes, that's when the attacker is going to take control of your machines. And that's when that red banner comes up saying your system is logged, you are logged out, all the data is encrypted, you have to shell out the ransom if you want your data back. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we touched upon the story, then we talked about splitting that attack into different phases. Now let's see how the security operation works towards defending these attacks. Next slide. So when you look at the organization from the eye of a security operations practitioner, you would see three major pillars on which the organization stands, and that is people, process, and technology. It starts with technology. And in fact, you might have got a hint from Ashraf's slide as well. There are umpteen technologies which are put across the organization. It starts with firewalls, IPS. IPS stands for intrusion prevention systems. There is threat intel coming from various intelligence organizations, Talos being the one of the major leaders from CISCO. There are endpoint information, there is identity related information, there is on-prem, off-prem, cloud data. Now you could imagine, I'm breathless counting these things. So you could give it a guess, the volume of data that would be put across to this operation group. There is constant fog of more. And to get sense out of it, that's where we have tools, or we have the technology element coming in. And that technology is one of the state-of-the-art tools around SIEM, UEBA, and SOAR. These are acronyms and jargons. So one of the things that you have to understand getting into cybersecurity is you are going to be bombarded with such acronyms. So in short, these tools are going to help the engineers, the information security engineers, to make sense out of this humongous quantity of data. And these tools are actually where AI and ML going to help understand what's going to happen, what can we predict based on our current behavior and the behavioral changes that the user and the devices are showing. So you could think of the movie Minority Report, where Tom Cruise had some means of figuring out what's going to happen in future. So these tools are something which gives you that kind of power. So once you have the technology in place, that's not enough. You need to have the right people who are going to use this technology and going to orchestrate a complete game plan to defend off such an attack. So connecting from our story, our threat actor is already into the system, an event is detected. That's when the systems are going to alert the analyst that there is something out of ordinary in your network. The analyst is going to do his research. He will report to investigator. They will dissect. They will investigate what is the situation, what is the blast radius in the sense what is the impact of to the organization. And with that, the incident manager kicks in. He or she will bring in the business executives. If they are to be informed, they will contact the users who are impacted. They will basically orchestrate the whole game of defending the organization. And what helps or what guides all the people here and what tells you how to use the technology is the process element. So that's where you have policies, procedures, standards, which is more like in the programming world, you have algorithms, you have step-by-step procedures on what to do, what not to do. That's where the process comes in. So you could take an analogy of a tripod. If one of the leg is not strong, the tripod will not stand. Same is the case here. People, process, and technology. With these three triad is what the organization stands on, and that's how the security practitioners try to keep the organization safe. Next slide, please. So with that, I will move to the last part of my segment, the roles, the powers that you have. By now, all the eminent speakers before me have explained to you various things in cybersecurity, different roles that you have. I will only give you a glimpse of it. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is a map of a cybersecurity career prepared by NASCOM and NSDL. It gives you a high-level view of different tracks that you have. My colleague Mansi, who's going to be the next speaker, will delineate all these different roles and responsibilities for you. But I will leave you with an analogy of combat forces. So in combat forces, not everyone is a para commando, not everyone is a fighter pilot, not everyone is a marine, but you need a bunch of like-minded, highly trained professionals to keep the nation secure and make the combat force work at that optimal level. And that's what this map is all about. And this is the map for an organizational defense. Next slide, please. So with that, my session comes to an end, and I welcome you all to an adventureful career with a lot of learnings. Thank you. Mansi or Ishwanda, over to you.
Great, thanks Praveen and Ashraf. Those were some amazing insights, and I really enjoyed the session so far. All right, but that was also a lot of technical details. So let's just lighten it up a little bit. But before we do that, before I tell you about the various roles and responsibilities of a cybersecurity expert, I want to make a loud and clear call out that cybersecurity is not just about a hacker with those stereotypical long hair and an anonymous hoodie trying to get into a system. It is not. It is much wider, much broader, and much, I would say, flavored branch of technology. And you know what's that one most amazing thing about being in a cybersecurity group? The growth. The growth is never going to stop, because you as a security professional, you would have to learn everything that is not security as well, at least at the breadth of it, because you can't secure it until you know it. Right? So it's a broad range of things and not just about penetration testing and ethical hacking. Okay, so let's just jump into it and see what we really do and how we do it. Next slide, please. So what is cybersecurity then all about? Let me try to kind of put it under an umbrella for you guys for a better understanding. At the base of it, it is about creating policies, creating those baselines, creating maybe hardening mandates that govern security within an organization. Then it's about creating or developing a range of products that you just saw in Ashraf's and Praveen's presentation. Those range of products that can provide different styles of protection. It could be protection for endpoints. It could be protection for network. It could be detecting malicious behavior, catching malware, protecting from email, web-based frauds, DDoS, right? All those things that we just discussed. Then there's another stream of it, which is about architecting secure networks, ensuring that the entry points within the network are well thought of. The critical assets, the important assets within an organization, they are well identified. And most importantly, there is a decent sense of visibility. You know, whatever is happening within my network, within my endpoint system, I should be able to see it. And not just see it, but I should be able to correlate one or more events, derive a sort of a logical sense out of it, respond to it, remediate it. Okay. And then lastly, there is that obvious penetration testing and ethical hacking side of it, which is very important, but I'm sure you guys are much more aware of it than this one. Let's go to the next slide now. This picture is very close to me, because this was the first question that was asked to me 12 years back when I entered the cybersecurity group. What I want you guys to do is I want you guys to look at this slide, look at the 4 pictures over there, they're all castles, and tell me what you feel is common in the way security is implemented here. So take your cell phones, scan the barcode that's given on the screen, just like you did before for Slido, and you should be able to put your answers. Now, when you're putting the answer, be creative. Put out those adjectives that cross your mind, looking at this picture from a security perspective, and answer just one question. If you were the king or queen of this particular castle, how would you implement security? Next slide, please. So if you're not able to see the pictures on the slide right now, you can just Google castle in Google Images, and you should be able to see lots of castles which have a lot of things in common. But the point being, while you guys do this activity, you think more from a perspective of perhaps a scaled down version of the question, how do you secure your homes? Remember how our dads are so careful about putting together a locker and a lock and a fingerprint to secure gold? And then our mothers who keep money in different places at home so that even if there is a theft, there is redundancy and collateral damage can be avoided. And all those CCTV cameras, keyholes that provide complete visibility inside and outside of our houses. The double locks on the front door, the fences, it just goes on and on, the kind of security things that we have in our homes. Same goes for the castles. The castles would be located on the top of a hill or in the middle of a moat. This is to ensure that when the enemy comes in, if they do, they have to cross multiple hurdles before they can actually get to the castle and plant their, whatever, the flag of victory, perhaps. Interestingly, security was handled in a much, much similar way so far. And we like to call it as defense in depth. The idea was very straightforward, very simple. It is all about the perimeter, perimeter, the gate. Everything outside of the perimeter is very bad and untrusted. Everything inside of the perimeter is amazing. It's good and it is trusted. Now it's very simple, right? Within this perimeter, we secure our assets, the important things, with multiple layers of security to ensure that we have depth of protection for the things that matter. And it was rather, I won't say easy, simple, because we could say that, hey, at the gate, there is a guard. And we could say that, hey, guard, don't let anybody from an IP address 1.1.1.1 come in, but anybody coming from 2.2.2.2, please allow, right? Basically, my point is point solutions, like the gate-based solution, they worked so far, okay? Let's go to the next slide. Oh, beautiful. I love the answers, and that is exactly where I'm getting. Amazing. Can we go to the slides, please? Okay, so I'll start. Basically, all of this, we were happily doing it easily, simply, and nicely. And then cloud happened. Okay, and with cloud, the whole concept of perimeter or the gatekeeping, it started to expand and diminish, ironically, at the same time. Okay, the users, people like you and me, look at me, I'm working from home. People or users, they wanted to work from home. They wanted to use their iPads, iPhones, Android phones to work. They wanted to work from cafes, restaurants, even when they are on vacations. My sister recently worked from Goa for a month. Now, if you look at the resources that they are trying to access, these resources also are no longer sitting in the data center. They have all moved to the cloud. If you look at applications, if you look at database servers, if you look at web servers, mail servers like O365, so storage drives, OneDrive, Box, we use this so often, and all of these things are on the cloud. Now, security takes a 360-degree mindset change. All right, there is no perimeter. What do I do? The mindset changes in a way that who am I protecting? I'm protecting my applications, I'm protecting my users. If my users are spread out, if my applications are on the cloud, what are my security mechanisms doing sitting in the data center? Makes sense, right? It's a very logical transition to look at. And this is where we have a new question to answer. What is that question? How will security play a role if you decide to take that castle, that kingdom of yours, to the cloud? And that we are going to discuss in the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, if you look at security, right, the crux of security is not going to change. It's going to remain the same. Protect my users, protect my applications. But how? How do we do that is the equation that really needs to change now. And here is where I want to introduce you guys to the concept of zero trust. As the name suggests, right? Trust no one until they have proven their motives, their goals, their aspirations. So the whole point we just discussed just a couple of minutes back about everything inside the perimeter being trusted suddenly vanishes. Inside the perimeter or outside the perimeter, nothing is trusted, okay? I'll give you an example. A user wants to access an application. They need to explain who they are, what they want, where is the application located, when was it requested, for how long is it needed, and how the application can be rendered to this user at low latency but top-notch security. Okay, if you look at the user side, that's the network side of it. Look at the user side of it. Does this laptop or iPhone or iPad, whatever the user is using, is this person logging into the application from a device that is meeting my compliance requirements? Does it have an antivirus? Does it have a malware protection system or disk encryption system? Is this user even authorized to access my resources, or is just playing around? If this user is downloading large amount of data, confidential data, do I have the right set of data loss prevention techniques to protect that or prevent that, or at least have visibility into that? And there is so much more. And this is where I'm going to take you to the next slide. As a cybersecurity expert, you define all of that. All of that we just discussed, you get to define those policies that the user should be subjected to. You get to define the perimeter and beyond. You get to architect this network, how users access applications, and they do that securely. Okay? You as a security expert, like Ashraf was mentioning earlier, that there is this attack continuum, right? The before, during, after. You as a security expert, you lead through this whole thing to ensure that the customer networks are protected, both proactively as well as reactively. Okay, so as a cybersecurity expert, you need to understand and secure different type of networks. You get to wear different type of hats all the time. Sometimes you have the customer hat on you. Sometimes you have the investigator hat. Sometimes a hacker's hat, consultant hat, partner in crime hat, auditor hat. So many different personalities that you go through, and hence it involves a lot of problem-solving skills, troubleshooting skills, picking exciting challenges skill, and keep leveling up day on day. That's basically what is required of the next generation of cybersecurity experts, to bring forward a unique mindset, a disruptive innovative approach to address basically the needs, the security needs of the era in which we are entering, or we have already entered. And trust me, after all of this, after doing this as a part of your day job, when you go back home, you feel so rewarded. You feel a sense of fullness that people and organizations and CISOs and CTOs are sleeping well and peacefully because of you. Okay. And with that, I'm going to close the session. I hope this session got you all excited about cybersecurity, and I would be very happy to see some of you guys here in Cisco someday. With that, best of luck for your assignment. Rock it, and over to you, Ishwinder.
Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Mansi. You did a deep dive session, but for me, like a non-cybersecurity technical guy, it was so easy to understand. And I hope all our students who want to build career would have understood it well. So at the leadership, you have heard from Vish, Samir, Devjani, what is that macro level. Then you heard from Vishak, like what exactly is that global and the India and the organizational level. Now you heard from the experts, like how exactly they actually do, what is the life of like day in their own life. It's like being a family man, what was the topic of the session. Thank you very much. But now this is my distinct pleasure to invite Shajid, who is Senior Director of Customer Experience at Cisco, and Priyanka, who is Head of Emerging Talent and University Recruiting at APJC, to talk to you about how you can build a successful career in cybersecurity at Cisco and beyond. Over to you, Shajid and Priyanka.
Thank you, Ishwinder. And I must say that, like you called out, right? I mean, Mansi, you just brought up the energy so much. I'm super thrilled. I'm just thinking, why didn't I take up cybersecurity, right? And the way you explained how to save your castle, I mean, I was literally imagining me doing that. So thank you so much for an amazing explanation. And I love the conversation. It's been so interesting. It's kind of motivated me, energized me, and I'm like rethinking, is there some course that I can also take up and look for those 1.5 million jobs that are on the way, right? So it's amazing. And before we get into further discussion, Shajid, I would like you to add something, and then we'll kickstart the conversation with the audience poll.
Sure. Thanks, Priyanka. And Mansi, as usual, that was an amazing session. I'm sure that it's got, if there was anybody sitting on the sidelines wondering whether they should, now they're probably on the starting point and on the line, ready to go. So here's what happened, right? Priyanka and I talked about it. We were supposed to talk about career, and lo and behold, Samir, Vish, everybody talked about career and how you get into cybersecurity career. So we're not going to bore you with repetitions. So we're going to slightly change it a bit. Still give you good information, hopefully, but try to give you a different perspective or a different angle on the career aspect, keeping in mind that you are gunning for a cybersecurity job, a career in cybersecurity. All right. So Priyanka, let's start with the poll. Let's see what the audience has understood so far, and then we'll take it from there.
For sure. So, here is our first question, and Ishwin, we'll need your help to, share the code with the audience. And please go ahead and key in. And I know Mansi gave a glimpse of the roles a bit, but we would like to see how much could you capture, how much have you read, how much do you already know, what roles, one can get with this cybersecurity specialization. And while you guys are doing that, I just want to call out one thing. I was so amazed hearing the stats and the opportunity that we have to bridge this gap, right? And this partnership that we have today with NASCOM, AICTE, and the students doing all their internships here, I think we are one step closer to that bigger goal, right? And it's amazing. I heard one more point which kind of stuck with me, and I think Shajid, you'll be able to, relate to that as well, because that's what we do at CISCO, the learning and unlearning and the amount of, opportunities we have here for anybody who comes in, right?
No, absolutely. And another interesting thing, and I couldn't shake the whole castle, imagery from what Manasi was talking about. So it's very similar to what I like to tell people when how that evolution of cybersecurity has happened, right? Just an added twist. In the past, you locked your doors, you were fine, but now all of us and our teenagers, and all of the students here are probably bringing their cell phones and all the threats right into the bedroom and beyond, right? So the how you manage that threat has completely changed, and it's evolving. And then we'll get to that evolving part shortly. So here's what everybody is writing: cybersecurity engineer, cyber analyst. All right, so wonderful. So everybody's got a good sense of what it is. Some folks are writing CISO. Excellent.
Wow, it's amazing to see this, and Shajid, I would love to hear your thoughts around, and I'm sure the students are eager to know as well. What career options for fresh grads we have, right? I mean, who are starting off with cybersecurity as their background or a specialization in this field?
Yeah. So like we said, right? Enough has been spoken about each one of these specific titles and what it means, to do that job. Some of the most common ones are jobs in the SOC, the Security Operations Center, as a penetration tester, all of that. But let's take a step back. These are titles, right? And there's a technology component of learning associated with it. But then there is an element that is outside of that technology learning, which is as important as the technology piece. So let's imagine you're a computer science engineer or a mechanical engineer or an electronics engineer, for example. You write code. The code does not fight back. Unless, of course, we are in the realm of Terminator and Skynet, and you've got intelligent machines, so that's far out. But for now, they're not fighting back. You write the code, you compile it. Either it tells you there's an error, and then you fix it and you go on. You go on to the next application. Mechanical engineer, you design systems. car you designed as an automobile engineer, or an engine, or a turbine that you design is not going to fight back. Same thing with electronics, right? But in this space, the $1 trillion economy that we talked about, the $1 trillion crime economy, means that there is enough and more motivation for people to fight back, which means you take a step. It's almost like an ongoing chess game. You make a move, they make a counter move. Then you've got to counter that counter again. So it's at the same time a chess game as well as a dance, if you will, right? It's an ongoing thing. You've got to match step by step. So what does that mean? That means not only do you need very specific skills in terms of technology, the understanding of the underlying security technologies, the architecture, the tools that are involved, you also need something else. Devyani, talked about this when she started her conversation, right? She said problem solving. Problem solving is certainly one of it, because the problems are not stereotypical. They're not normal. They're not static. They're constantly evolving. So your ability to constantly evolve and problem solve on the go is an absolute important element of being or building a career in the cybersecurity field, right? All the certifications are there, yes, but without the skill, you will soon find yourself as a non-effective engineer with the right credentials, but not being able to be effective in the job. The second piece of it is, Samir mentioned this, was about understanding psychology. Why do you need to understand psychology? Because you're not fighting a system, you're not fighting the code, you're not fighting, a non-living entity on the other side. It's a human being. It's an actor. It's an adversary on the other side. It's human behavior you're fighting. When you talk about social engineering, it's your ability to understand human behavior, which leads you and allows you to make systems that can help prevent exploitation of people through the social engineering concepts, right? So going back to the Sun Tzu quote that we had, the Art of War quote, if you know yourself and your enemy, you don't need to worry about or fear the 100 battles. So it's absolutely important that you understand yourself, you understand your enemy, and you understand how to problem solve on a very, very nimble and real-time basis. That is as important as the CCNA, the CISSP, the CISA, all of those certifications. So remember, that is very, very key. So hope that helps, Priyanka.
Yeah, definitely. And the moment you called out this anomaly with human behavior and understanding the psychology, it's so true, right? I mean, like a chess game, or the game analogy that you just shared. It's so important to understand what next the other person is thinking. So with this amount of complexity, Shajid, I mean, what do you think these students need to do, or how do they need to be prepared to get into these roles, right? I mean, what do they need to do?
So we talked some of the components of this, right? Which is being very nimble at problem solving, right? Understanding and being comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is not a static space. Things change constantly. So if you are the kind of person that is not comfortable in the ever-changing landscape, then you probably need to rethink. So let's go back. First is figure out, learn how to be a better problem solver. Second, spend some time, be curious, learn things that are beyond just the technology jargons and the 3-letter and 4-letter acronyms that everybody throws around, right? That does not mean cybersecurity. Knowing how to configure a firewall does not make you a cybersecurity professional. It is also understanding the broader picture that makes you an effective professional. So if there's one thing I can tell the students here, do not checklist your career. What I mean by that is, do not think that by earning a certification, by doing a few things, by doing a few courses, you will make a successful career. It is also about looking at the broader picture, being curious about what you're doing, why you're doing. And in this case, you have, like I said, an adversary. You have a chess partner, you have a dance partner on the other side. How do you understand what their motivations are? Where will they hit next? How will they look to exploit what you have built? So your ability to critically think through all of those elements is a very important aspect of being prepared for this career, Priyanka. Like I said, right, I'm not diminishing the fact that learning all of these certifications is absolutely important, because otherwise you'll be sitting there saying, yeah, I know how to problem solve, but I don't know how to apply it on these systems, right? So both are important. I'm just saying that in the rush and in that enthusiasm to go get those certifications in cybersecurity area, please don't forget that those are just the tools, right? It's like people say, right? I mean, the guy that knows and only about the hammer will go about trying to find a nail. He'll look to find a nail wherever he can to just go bang the hammer. But you've got to take a step back and saying, what are you using the hammer for, right? Is it to build a house? Or is it to just bang nails in, right? You want to be the guy that designs and builds the house, not the guy that is looking for a nail to just go bang the nails in, because that's the only thing you learned, which is you learned a tool. You did not take in the bigger picture. So that is a very, very important thing to do.
Wow. So it's so important that apart from the certifications, right? I mean, there are those extra bits that we have to be really conscious of, and knowing oneself about, whether I'm comfortable with this unstable environment, right? So being comfortable with being uncomfortable, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much, Shajid. That was really
Priyanka,
helpful.
you've been asking me questions. Now you lead our emerging talent function for us, and typically, right, in this area, we kind of ask students, why should Cisco hire you, or why should a company hire you, right? I want to ask the other side of the question. Why should any of these guys want to come work for Cisco?
Sure, great question. And I know that, the bit about, why should we hire you? And that's something we usually see an interview question, but great question. Thank you. From a Cisco standpoint, right? I mean, there are three things that really stand out: people, culture, and the technology edge that we have today. And most importantly, if I look around and if I, go out and talk to any of our employees, everybody will say that as an organization, we keep people first and at the center of everything else that we do, be it, prioritizing their well-being, their career, and, the growth that comes with it. And also when we look at the overall work that we do, the team dynamics, playing to individual strengths, and not looking at, what somebody is not good at, but looking at what they are good at and playing along that. The collaborations that we do, the flexibility that we have for each individual to choose what's next for them, or even getting the global visibility, a true global organization where we see diverse mindset, diverse cultures, and get people to interact with each other. The amount of learning and growth opportunities that we have, where an individual can build on the existing potential and become more skillful for any passion that one has for tomorrow. We have exceptional leaders like yourself, to guide and mentor these new grads or fresh grads that who come on board. And one more, if I can just summarize this and say, it's like a full package of an amazing career for today and a commitment for growth for tomorrow. So, in a nutshell, I think it's a great combination where we see and think for people and with the people that we have. And I just hope that helps. And before I get to ask you the next question, I would like to post a question for the audience around which industry do they think the cybersecurity is relevant to. So you'll be seeing that, and Ishwinder, I would need your help to have the question up there for them. And once the poll starts coming in, we will shoot out our next question for Shajid. But people become so important, Shajid, and I think, and that is what we are proud of today. And the things that we do and the innovations that come out of them, right? I mean, because all of us are so comfortable. All of us are taken care of.
Yep, absolutely, Priyanka. I was just reading through all of the responses, IT sector, as expected, stands out. But then people have, kind of captured all sectors. I see medical, healthcare, manufacturing. So absolutely right. So what we wanted to kind of portray here was, when we think of an IT job, and especially a cybersecurity job, everybody thinks about these, companies that run IT systems and make firewalls and make all these cloud security products. But that's not it, right? There's also the adjacencies. So take a hospital, for example. Today, probably the fastest growing job requirements for cybersecurity professionals happen in the healthcare and financial space, because those are the ones that are getting hit by ransomware on a significant basis, right? So it's very important to understand, remember what we said, not just the specific area. So jobs are also available in the healthcare industry, for example. So if you expand a little bit, understand more about the healthcare industry and the medical field, on how hospitals are run, how they run their systems, that is another avenue for a career. Same thing with the financial sector. So every sector today that sits and uses technology is unfortunately a target, because $1 trillion crime and world does not exist without all of these pieces coming together. So it's very important that as students, as you're getting into the industry, you understand that it's not just the IT sector. It is a much broader field, because every system that is out there that has critical information, critical data, is at risk. And as a cybersecurity professional, it is what you guys will do. Get in there and build systems that will protect that data, protect those systems from these adversarial candidates.
Awesome. I think that was really a great perspective to think beyond, and not just limit ourselves to one sector and limit it to just one role. I think it was amazing to see the response from audience and the kind of interactions that we had, and it made me feel so happy that they are very serious about what they are getting into. And I loved some of these thoughts around what kind of roles that we could get into, right? I mean, how we can be prepared for it, and not through certifications, but also ensuring that we have and build our strengths and capability, and also understand our enemy on the other side, right? Who can be, or who is probably smarter than us, right? So constantly getting ready for that battle. I think it is really important for the students to look through some of these aspects. And again, I would like to quote some of the other speakers who just said that it is about how this is so huge, and not just within one role or within one sector. So get ready, all the very best for the internships that you're doing, and we hope that you will all have amazing careers with amazing salaries and amazing organizations that you're going to be part of. Shadi, any closing remark from your side before we hand over to Ishwinder?
Sure. I think you've heard some amazing thoughts here on why you should go into this area. Just in India, the 1.5 million jobs, right? I mean, that is huge. That is huge. So if I were to leave you with one thing, this is what it would be. In addition to what you're doing right now in terms of learning and getting familiar, be curious. Be very curious. That will take you a long way in your career. not just in the cybersecurity career, but overall, right? As long as you're curious and, that leads to learning more, constantly learning, unlearning and relearning, that is the only way to have a long and fulfilling career. So thank you for listening in, and back to you, Shvinder, and all the best, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shvinder.
Thank you, Shajid. Thank you, Priyanka, for sharing such a wonderful insights. I hope this is very helpful for all the students listening us live. And now let's quickly deep dive into some of the NetAcad course portfolio of the cybersecurity. So like Priyanka, Shajid, and everybody in the prior session said, you have to gain knowledge, you have to gain skills, and then subsequently do hands-on, and so that you can build a successful career in cybersecurity. So let's jump on to Swati, who is our Global Security Manager, joining from San Jose, our headquarters in US, to just talk about the NetAcad cybersecurity portfolio. Over to you, Swati.
Hi, everyone. I'm Swati Handa, and I'm here today to talk about Cisco Networking Academy's cybersecurity portfolio. So, folks, if you're listening to me, that means you've already completed your internship. You've completed the 2 courses, Intro to Cybersecurity and Cybersecurity Essential, right? The 2 that you see on the screen right there. You've learned valuable skills that equip you with jobs, right? That's the beauty of this. And the beauty of the field in itself, cybersecurity, is that it's worth your time. It's worth the skills that you learn. It'll help you get real world jobs. Now, I'm sure with a lot of you have questions around. So I've learned this so far. What are my other options? Is there anything else I can pursue? And if I do pursue, what are the jobs that are available? So I'm going to talk to you about the 3 courses and what do they mean and what jobs they bring to the table. So let me put it this way. This easiest way to look at this is right on top, you have IoT security. So if you enjoy being an ethical hacker, the white hat, right? So you enjoy finding vulnerabilities and how is that a risk or not? So modeling risk, I would recommend that course. I would highly recommend taking up IoT security. Next, if you rather enjoy being a protector, so, somebody who likes to make sure we have the right fortress or the fences and people can't enter the network, then I would recommend being the network security course, where you prevent intrusions, you harden the systems, you're able to implement security policies. That's what you learn in this course. And I don't just mean theoretical policies, but policies which prevents folks from. So configuring firewalls is something that you would end up doing in this course. So network security is being more of a protector, right? But the third option that you have is that of being a SOC analyst. So if you're like, okay, the fortress exists, we got the best system in place, but what is it that, we need to have that alarm system, right? So how do we detect and respond to threats? The bad guys are trying to come in all the time, but do I have the skills to figure out, am I under attack or is that just a false positive? So it's more about understanding and detecting those intrusion and how would we, if we have such a threat, what would be the first response? That's the role of a SOC analyst. So folks, as you saw, you have completed 2. You have 3 more options to go in our Cyber Academy portfolio here at NetAcad. I would highly recommend it for you to join an academy and take these courses. And stay tuned, right here at the Academy, we are constantly coming up with more exciting courses as well as experiences which will help you earn these real world skills. So all the best, folks. I hope, I was able to shed some light into what exciting options we have. Feel free to post more questions in the chat and we'll get there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Swati, for enlightening all of us with the cybersecurity portfolio, which student can access on netacad.com or by contacting their instructor. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Ajay Vikram and Dr. Nitin Pandey from MIT University to take us through the actual hands-on session on the packet tracer, the powerful network simulation tool. And they will also guide us how exactly you will solve the next stage of this particular internship program, which is designing a secure network for your institution. Over to you, Dr. Ajay, Dr. Nitin.
Thanks a lot, Ishwinder, and thanks a lot to invite us and give us opportunity to deliver this session. So here, as our main focus is about that how we are going to secure a network. So this is our internship program actually, which students have to be solved. So here, before going to the detail that how we are going to make a network secure and how we are going to use or how we are going to configure a small network by using packet tracer. So as we know it that this courseware or this packet tracer tool give the advantage to the student in such a difficult time that they can do every practical aspect, every simulation aspect by using packet tracer. So here I request for the next slide. So there first we have to discuss that why we are using the simulator and what type of things we can simulate into it and what is the first aspect which we are going to handle. So here we know it that we are using a method in which security should be implemented by CIA principle. So there we have a tripod approach. So here we have a technology. Technology means that how, what protocols, what technology, what devices we are using to protect the information from cyber criminals. Then we have to place policies and practices. The policies and practices, like we have a different standard organizations, those who provide us different policies. And those policies can be in conceptual or theoretical in nature, but those policies can be in form of how we are doing the safeguard, the different devices, how we can safeguard. The physical safeguard also is much more required. There is a lot of social related issues to which have to be also taken care. One of the interesting example in 1 minute, which I want to go to give, that in Aadhaar enabled payment gateway service, a fraud has occurred only just 10 days ago, that by using the registered document where there is a fingerprint scan, people have used that fingerprint and make the dummy of that fingerprint and use that Aadhaar enabled payment gateway service which need fingerprint and do the monetary frauds. So those type of practices should also be taken care. So there is some procedure which should have taken place. Then people, again, the aware, the people about the technology. So this is our main approach, that how these three dimensions should be need for making the network or the society, or we can say whole cyber space a secure place. Next slide, please. So here, now we come to about different security aspects, that what are the different security aspects. So here we know it that we can divide our security aspects into 3 and 4 major ranges. Physical security of devices is one of them, but we are not going to discuss as lot of literature is available. And you all know that how we are going to provide physical security. But here we need first step, which is coming in a category of the first, which is coming in a category of endpoint protection. Endpoint protection means we have to protect the end devices. So you know this, that in case of endpoint devices, we have a mostly your computers or desktops or even laptops. There now we have some handheld devices, which is coming in a category of our, we can say, mobile and these all devices. Then we have a printers, we have IP phones right now, and we know it that we are using nowadays virtual way of communication. So there is a different devices which is enabled with that virtual communication. So first, we have to deal with the endpoint protection, that how we can do the endpoint protection. So in case of endpoint protection, we know it that we are using normally antiviruses, and those antiviruses has to be work in such a way that if a new virus or new malware is introduced, then it can restrict that. So then we have a different other approaches, like we have advanced malware protection, then we have our email security appliances, we have our web security appliances. So these are the appliances which can be integrated in our system to protect it. So now I request my friend Dr. Nitin to come to the packet tracer. Then I again switch back to the another hardening of the system, that how we can hardening the other things. So over to you to share the screen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Ajay. Now I'm sharing my packet tracer screen. Just a minute. So this is your packet tracer. You see that is here is the device section is there. This is the device section. You see that this is the router section. Here is the router section. You see that is the router is there. This different series of router 4331, 4321. This is the type of devices, routing devices. They call the router. So this is the based on the routing protocol. So next you see that is the switches. These are the network devices. You see that the switch the 2960 yes, switches, layer 3 switches are there. 24 port switches are there. Here is the next is the hub of devices, and next is wireless type of devices. This is called wireless devices. Different type of wireless devices are there. So you have the access points are there, and then next is security type of devices. So there's two types of in India. There's two securities are there. Now next is this is the device cloud based, and you can there is the DSL based devices. Now next is there is related to the end devices. So in end devices, you see that there is a PC, laptop, servers are there, and there is a printers, IP phones are there, phone, TV, tablets are there. So and there is a smartphone also. In this, you see that is different type of end device. Either packet sniffer is also there. Packet sniffer to snip the packet and to see what is in the packets are there in running mode. So there is some home appliances are there. You see that is home appliances. Battery is there, speakers, Bluetooth speakers is there, fan is there, ceiling fan. So if you need to, this is type of IoT simulation. So if you need to type of IoT home automation, that is related to the smart city is also there. Smart city type of devices are also there. You see that beacon is there, and there is a ceiling fan. There is a old car. So you can design the smart city network in the IoT platform also. So, and there is some type of devices. You see that is the related to the. If you see that is the fire monitors. So the carbon monoxide detector, and there is some sensors are there. So you can use the sensor humidifier. So these are the power meters are there. So you can use in the for IoT and smart city projects. You can use the design and there is a power grid is also there. So this is the CISCO packet tracer 8.0, and this is very good to have IoT features and also have the routing, switchings, and open classes. If you want to design in this AICTE, your AICTE project means this is you have to design in internship. You design the network related to your campus area network. Means you design the campus area network. So you have the different buildings are there. You can simulate the building floor-wise design. You can design the floors, and you can also design the VLAN. So if you want to design the VLAN, so first you create you need to the devices like a switch. So you need to switch. If you check the switch have the This is the, you see that in this, there is a 24 ports, fast Ethernet ports, and they have the 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. And all the ports are in the VLAN 1. Because by default in switch, they are in VLAN. So this is the also security concern, because the default, if you have a default features in your devices, means if you install any internet in your home, so your ISP, internet service provider, have the default setting in the router. So if you have the default setting, so anyone can breach the default settings. So change the default setting always. Either you use the router, switches, or any devices, or your PC, or your phone. So change the default settings on your device. This is the first things to do in your device and device. So over to Dr. Ajay Vikram Singh.
I request to share the screen. I request to share the PPT. So here, after getting to the endpoint protection, we have to now come to the next PPT. Next slide, please. So now we come to the layer 2 vulnerabilities. So very well explained by my dear colleague, Dr. Nitin, that how the end devices should not be with a default setting, because we know it that default setting have a default passwords and these all. So this should be prevented. Now we come to the second aspect, that after end devices, what next we are going to secure, because we can say that the end devices are the devices which are connected to the cyberspace. Now, how these devices are connected with the cyberspace? So for your point of view, for your internship, it should be connected, as Dr. Nitin has explained, that we are going to design a small LAN or a campus area network. So your devices should be connected with the switch. So now we come to the layer 2 vulnerabilities. So layer 2 vulnerabilities are mostly the vulnerabilities which should be taken care in case of a LAN. So it should be taken care on the side of the switch. So how we can going to secure it? This is layer 2 vulnerability aspect. So over to you, Dr. Nitin, to just demonstrate few features of switch, that how we can make the switch a secure device in a campus area network.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ajay. Now I'm sharing the on screen packet tracer. So in this, you see that there is switch. Generally, if you click on the switch, there's a link. If you any end devices connected to the switch, suppose I'm connecting the device one PC to this. So this switch, so we need to connect with the cable. So we need copper straight through cable to connect the switch fast Ethernet port to this switch. So you see that is, if you connect this switch to this, it automatically enables. It means that this is the vulnerability of the switch, because when you connect the switch to the port to any end device, it automatically enabled. So any outside user can connect the switch if he is reachable to the switch. So it means that it directly connected the switch, it automatically connected to your local area network. So first you disable the switch, all the ports, unused ports, the port that is not used in your local area network. So you disable all the ports by command. So this is the simple command you can use for switch. So go to the config mode. So this is the configuration mode, and then give the interface. Now, if you go through the range of, so go to the range mode, range of ports. So go to the range, interface range. So suppose you give to F 0 by 4 to 10. So this is the command. So it will go to the interface range F0 means from 4 to 10 and go to the simple command that is no shutdown. Shutdown. No shutdown means enable. Shutdown. Now it is so that is the interface fast Ethernet 0 by P, 5 administratively down, 0 by 6 is administratively down. This means all that from 4 to 5 the down. So now let us check if you click on this any internet devices PC, this PC, and now you want to connect to this PC to port number 5. So now it is said check that this is the in red mode. It means now it is disabled. This link is disabled. And now if you connect to any other PC to different port other than 4 to 10. So let us suppose that is 11. So now this is green. It means that from 4 to 10 are administratively down by the administrator. So if you want to enable this this port, any port, so go to the simple command, go to the same, go to exit. Now, if you want to interface Ethernet, that is your 0 by 5, and give the no shut. Now change state to up. Now you see that this is your green. So this is the simple demonstration of the how to disable the switches. Now another aspect of designing the network is your. So let us simple. If you want to design a network, first you go to your local area network. Local area network means suppose you have a switch and you have a different type of users. Suppose you have in campus, there is some student type of student user are there, some faculty user are there, some administrator user and some managerial level users are there, and some top level management users are there. So you can create in switch because there is a no type of there is because this is a layer 2 device, so there is a no type of working in the different type of network. So they're not differentiated different network. So we can use the VLAN concept of switch that is different. We can what this is called virtual LAN. So we can design this type of networks, creating the VLAN in this, because in this you see that they are in same VLAN. All the ports on the switch are in the same VLAN. So this is the con key. And if you go through this is the VLAN data. So create the VLAN. So first you create the VLAN, suppose 10, and that is name is student. This is the simple creation of VLAN. You can create VLAN similarly, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 40, and name the name type of manager, name the faculty, and name the so and then assign the port to this. So over to Ajay becomes. Over to Dr. Ajay Vikram Singh. Ajay sir, you are muted.
So I request you to come to next slide. Yeah. So here, after this, we have going to that how the different categories of switch is coming to the purview of the attack. So as Dr. Nitin has well explained that in designing a LAN, we have to find out that how we can design a LAN securely. After designing also, we have to check it, test it, and during that we have to provide much more security aspects. But even during the design, the security is much more needed. So here, these are the few attacks category which are very commonly used in case of switches. So as our focus is only to design a LAN or local area network, so here by doing it, we have understood it that here we have a MAC table attack, which includes that how the MAC addresses can be flooding by using this attack. Then there is a VLAN. VLAN attack means that how the common VLAN devices can be handled and the port should not be assigned to each other. Then DSCP attack, we know it that there is a dynamic host configuration protocol. Then we have a ARP attack. So these are the few attacks which we should have to be protected during the design of our VLAN or during the design of our campus area network. So the designing or as an internship of this project, the students are advised to taken care about these all aspects that how these attacks can be mitigated, how these attacks can be prevented, and how we are doing the hardening of our LAN devices to protect these attacks. Next slide, please. And after this, we come to about the security, which is a very common there, which is called port security. So we know it that the port should not be open. The port should be in such a way that if the port is assigned to a VLAN, then only it should be activated, as Dr. Nitin has already explained. Then after this, we have to prevent the DSCP about the allocation of the IP addresses. So this is about DSCP snooping. Then we have to taken care about dynamic ARP. So these are the few aspects. Due to the shortage of time, we cannot discuss much more. But here, first we have to taken care about endpoint security. Then we have to taken care about the switch security. Then we have to taken care about the other servers and the applications, which is very basic, which is very much required for designing a network, like DSCP application, ARP application. These all are the basic applications which is always be required. So first we have to taken care about these basic applications. Over to you, Dr. Nitin, to demonstrate any one aspect out of these all, because we are shorting the time. So you can demonstrate about any one aspect which you can demonstrate here. Dr. Nitin, unmute yourself. Dr. Nitin, unmute
Yes,
yourself.
yes. So there is a in switches and router there is a password. There is in plain text mode password. So you see that it enable. I have given the password enable password. That is the Cisco. Here is the given. Now if you see that as show running simple. I use the show run. Here you see that that is the password. You see in this there is. in previous, you see that there is a enable password Cisco, and you see that you see that is this Cisco. You see this is a plain text mode. So first is that this is the no one see the password, so you give the simple all the password must be in encrypted. So you need to give the command you give the password enable secure command service password encryption. So after giving this password, it is in encrypted mode. Service password encryption. So now you see that is exit and give the command show. And now you see that is in this there is password in encrypted mode. Previously we see in this Cisco, and now this is there is a encryption mode. Similarly, you can do it in the VLAN security also, and if you are using the different connection with the switches. Suppose you have one switch is there and another 3 switches you have a redundancy. You need the HTTP security. Spanning tree protocol security is also there, and if you are using the router, so you give the router password and router. If you use the internet and you are using the work from home in your campus network, so you need to VTP, VLAN trunking. So we have the VTP type of, and we have the internet connection. So you need the tunneling protocol for this. So this is the type of security you use in the packet tracer. You can misuse the packet tracer, design all the campus network design. So over to Dr. Ajay Vikram Singh. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nitin. Thank you, Dr. Ajay, for the wonderful hands-on session. Now I would like to invite Marcy to come and summarize this 3-hour session and talk a bit about the closing remark. So over to you, Marcy.
Thank you so much, Ishvinder, and thank you so much, Dr. Ajay and Dr. Nitin. It was fantastic having our Amity University experts on the call today. Thank you. Well, sadly, that actually brings us to the end of our speaker sessions today. And I have the privilege in leaving you with some really quick last-minute reminders for you as you embark just on your last part of this journey of the internship program. Next slide, please. As I said in the opening of our session today, I would really like you to take full advantage of the cybersecurity portfolio that we had on offer. You heard Swati talk about the 3 extra courses that are at your fingertips. So please take a look at our IoT security. It's our intermediate course, and it really tells you, it gives you an opportunity to use real world tools to test vulnerabilities, model threats, and evaluate risks in IoT solutions. We've also got our cybersecurity operations course, and it gives you the opportunity to develop the know-how to monitor, detect, and respond to cybersecurity threats. This is great for any of you that are really interested in joining a security operations centre. And of course, our network security, which is an advanced course where you learn skills to develop knowledge and capacity in this area. Next slide, please. There are many statistics that we're really, really proud of at Cisco Networking Academy, but perhaps the most that we're proud of is our student impact results. And so let me call out just a few of them for you all to have an understanding. Our students that have completed our CISCO certification and training courses have been surveyed. And we see that 93% of our students say they use their skills learned through their courses in their daily lives. 93% said that they attained a job or a further education opportunity. And 83% learned skills that can help them in their current job or their future job. And 83% said that they increased their value in their current job. So I hope that you all see the benefit of CISCO Networking Academy courses that you've taken. Next slide, please. Now, because you're all third and fourth year students, you're probably going to be really interested in, well, what's the next step when I'm ready for looking for jobs? And so we have the Talent Bridge program that you are all eligible to be part of now, your CISCO Networking Academy students. So there's some great features here. Keep a lookout for the matching engine. That's a tool that really helps you take a look at what jobs are on offer, but it also helps us at CISCO, our CISCO partners, our CISCO customers and distributors look at the great, fantastic talent that's available through CISCO Networking Academy. We've also got our alumni network on LinkedIn. Plenty of opportunities for you to hear about career advice, how to navigate your first technical interview, or putting a technical resume. Virtual events and events just like we've done today. So please, a big ask from me to you, please make sure that you're opted in to receive communications from CISCO so that we can keep you up to date with all the future events. Next slide, please. So it's up to all of you now to go and design your networks for your institution. We want to wish you all the very best of luck in your next stage of your internship journey. This is a project that you should be very, very proud of, and it is a testament of your ability to apply real life skills and knowledge to designing a secure network under, of course, the guidance of your wonderful mentors. Next slide, please. On behalf of the CISCO team, we would like to thank all our brilliant speakers today. We'd also like to thank our partners, Amity, Amrita, EduSkills, ICT Academy, NTTF, NIIT Foundation and TASC. And a special thanks goes to all our instructors who have helped our students prepare for the internship program. For more than 20 years, CISCO Networking Academy has empowered all people with career possibilities and the chance for better, more fulfilling lives. We wish you all the very, very best of luck in your career journey moving forward. I want to leave you all. I'm reminded of a quote as we listen through the event today. Thomas Fuller, an historian published in 1662, famously stated, "'Tis skills, not strength, that govern a ship." From all of us at CISCO, we hope that you've enjoyed today's event and thank you all for being the bridge to possible.
My name is Casey Shemansky, and